Welcome. You're listening to the Leading Health Podcast by the Kansas Health Foundation. We have a bold vision to make Kansas the healthiest state in the nation. And it's not just a vision, it's a movement powered by people like you. You are one of the 30,000 Kansans invited to help us shift our state's future. We're your hosts, Ed O'Malley and Susan Kang.
In each episode, we move beyond the usual conversation about health, the doctors and deductibles. Instead, we talk about capital H health, our ability to thrive. This is your invitation to grab the Leading Health book and join the conversation as we work together to make Kansas the healthiest state in the nation.
All right, welcome back to episode 11 of the Leading Health Podcast. Susan, today we're talking about chapter 11 in the book, which is the final chapter in part 2. Remember, part 1 of the book is setting up kind of the slide of health in Kansas, explaining America's health ranking, talking about the 30,000, right, and ending with, you know what, leading the nation in health really could be a North Star, should be a North Star. Part 2 of the book is, surprise, it's not a health challenge. It's a leadership challenge. Mm-hmm. And today we end that section of the book. We'll talk about part 3 next time. In this chapter, you know, I couldn't write this book and not include a little chapter on the difference between leadership and authority. Mm-hmm. And it's a little wonky.
Yeah, no, I think, I of course, I read that chapter.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Yeah, I totally did. Really loved it. And I think it's actually worth really digging a little bit into the difference between exercising leadership and being in a position of authority.
Well, it's a little bit of a weird kind of juxtaposition that we're asking our listeners and our readers to kind of think about with us, a little journey we're asking them to go on. But yes, the 30,000 are critical members of Kansas who hold outsized authority. I use that word a lot in the book. Like the 30,000 hold key roles of authority. Mm-hmm. You know, I hate the word leader.
Right.
So
I do.
I like talking about the exercise of leadership, which is an activity. It's something that happens. And I like talking about people who have authority. And to me, those being two different things is really, really important, because what we know is just having authority doesn't mean we're actually exercising leadership.
Right.
We've all seen plenty of people who have a fancy title, but they don't lead. They don't mobilize people to make progress on tough challenges. They just kind of exist in the role.
Right. And I think because of the title that they have, people automatically think that they have the ability to lead. And so I think that's what's interesting about this chapter.
Yeah.
To dispel that notion.
Right. And what we're trying to do in this chapter is to help people understand that, hey, number one, leadership and authority are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay. And when it comes to a daunting challenge like helping climb the health rankings, helping turn around the slide of health in Kansas, we need people in authority to understand, number one, the limitations of their role, but also to understand, but what is it we need you to do?
Yeah.
You know, like you can't do it all. The title of this chapter is Authority Isn't Enough.
Right.
Authority isn't enough. We cannot climb the health rankings just with the 30,000 doing their work. But we also cannot climb the health rankings without the 30,000 doing their part. Their part is necessary and insufficient. So this chapter is trying to help explain that. In some ways, it sets up part 3, which part 3 is a lot about how people in authority, the mindsets they need to have to help others exercise leadership on this challenge. But first, we got to nail the difference between leadership and authority. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We have the wonderful Teresa Lovelady back with us. Now, listeners will remember she was with us on episode 2 when we were talking about the 30,000.
Yeah, and that was a great episode around the Alice population.
It was great.
Absolutely.
And I loved how she talked about how she has dual citizenship.
Yeah.
You know, she's a member of the 30,000, and she said, I'll forever be a member of Alice. That, you know, she first engaged with HealthCore, the clinic that she serves as president and CEO of, as a patient and as a member of the Alice population. So we're excited to have her back with us here to dive into this chapter, to explore the difference between leadership and authority, and why that difference matters so much for those who want to make a difference on closing the health gap.
Yay! Super excited about this.
All right, let's do it. All right, Teresa, awesome to have you back with us. Thank you for joining us. Episode 2 was fun. Episode 11 is going to be fantastic, and it's awesome to have you back.
Yes. Well, I am happy and excited to be back. And again, the work you guys are doing here at the Kansas Health Foundation and casting this huge vision of being number one. I mean, who doesn't want to be number one? So I'm honored and just really excited to be here today.
Well, we're really happy to have you back. Thank you.
Well, let's get into the conversation. Susan, how should we tee this up? This is kind of a nebulous concept, leadership and authority. It's a little wonky, so we got to help our listeners know. We're going to try to make it as concrete as possible, but it's a provocative chapter. It's a big idea. Mm-hmm. So, Susan, how should we tee it up?
Well, so what I was wondering, was there, can you describe an experience or a time when you felt like that distinction between having authority and exercising leadership sort of became clear for you, the difference between those two concepts?
Oh, yeah. So when you think about the role of a leader, right?
Yeah.
So it's a position. So you sit in that seat and sometimes it could be lonely because you're sitting there going, okay, what do I do and how do I manage all these different things coming at you?
Yeah.
Exercising leadership to me. So you're in a position of authority then, but when you start to exercise leadership, you take all of that's coming towards you and you try to make sense of it and do something about it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I think, especially those that are in the 30,000, we're in these positions where it's like, I'm in this position of power, and how do I yield my power out there, instead of going, okay, how do I take this role and use it in a way that I can help move change or help initiate change?
Yeah,
or help
and to mobilize
something.
others, right?
Yes.
To make progress on the thing that's most daunting to them. Yeah.
Yes, because leadership doesn't have to be lonely. I mean, if you're inspirational and you're working to help engage others, and like you said, in the process, I think about an example during COVID, right? This was a time where there was so much going on. There was there was big H and little h going at it. So
all the
health
same time.
and health.
Gosh.
All the same time.
Everything
So
was
hard.
just clashing.
Yeah.
And as the leader of a nonprofit health center where we knew our patients, COVID was not going to eradicate or get rid of cancer and all the other issues we were having with serving kind of our underserved or uninsured or the ALIS population, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really tough to just be in that position with all of that coming at you and all of your patients and trying to work through and figure out what do you do next. And then to be able to reach out in the community and start engaging others and sharing the leadership role, right? Mm-hmm. So as a leader, to exercise leadership, you have to share with other leaders and engage them into the process. And then I think about how we needed so much leadership, exercising of leadership during COVID to literally save the lives of not only our neighbors, our peers, our babies, our seniors. It took a lot of us exercising leadership.
Yeah.
And so not just those that were in positions of authority, but those individuals who literally from any position they were in, they had to actively engage in leadership.
Yeah, true. I love that you're bringing up COVID because it's a great example. And I remember feeling, and the listeners and viewers know that I used to be at the Kansas Leadership Center and served as the founding president and CEO there. Susan used to be the vice chair of the board at the Kansas Leadership Center. And Teresa, I know you've gone through courses at the Kansas Leadership Center. And so this idea, of course, of leadership and authority being two different things is a key kind of part of the KLC framework. And I love that you brought up COVID because I remember back then spending a lot of time thinking about what do we need from authority right now during COVID? And I think one of the mistakes people made during COVID who are in authority is they thought what they were supposed to do was provide certainty of outcomes. And they couldn't, right? They would say things like, the kids will be back in school by next month. And what I remember feeling was that what we needed back then were people in authority to realize that what we need from them is to provide certainty of the process we're going to use to try to get through this. We are going to update you every Friday at 2:00 about the status of schools. We are going what can people count on? I think when it comes to helping Kansas lead the nation in health, there's like a similar question, like what is it we need from those in authority?
Right.
What do we need from them that only they can do?
Right.
Like in COVID, only people in authority could say, here's the process by which we are going to communicate about this challenge and update you on this challenge and how we're going to try to work through it. Like that's a role for authority. With this challenge of improving the health of Kansas and climbing the rankings, it's like we need people in authority to know there are certain things that only you can do.
Right.
Like casting vision, saying the Alice population matters.
Right.
Right. There's certain things that only those in authority can do. And if they don't do them, it's going to be really, really hard. Now, there's other stuff we need others to do.
Right.
But does that resonate at all with either of you? What are you thinking about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as a person that's in authority, you're kind of a resource broker, right? You're able to clear the path, bring in the resources needed so that others could do the work that has to be done. And sometimes acknowledging the role that you play. I know sometimes some people may ask, am I one of the 30,000? But then are you one of the 30,000 that has a role of authority? Are you a resource broker? Or are you someone that helps set policy? Or like in that 30,000, what's the role? Where's the authority, and then where is the exercising leadership in that? And then how do you own that part in that subset of that 30,000 to be able to help move the needle or improve our rankings in a way that's meaningful and it does the least amount of harm while we're going through the process?
Yeah. I mean, I think as we're looking to become number one in the nation, I think it is critically important to have the people in positions of authority on board, right? To exercise authority and to be a resource broker in different, whatever the role may be, right? And it could be a resource broker, it could be a policymaker, it could be, many different concepts and positions.
Yes.
But so it's authority and it's authority and the ability to then exercise leadership around the thing that we want to make progress on. And for us, it's about, trying to get to be number one in the nation.
The resource broker, that's a great example. Like one of the roles of somebody in authority is to be a resource broker. To, in essence, say, I'm going to connect you, Teresa, to this resource. Yes. I'm going to connect you to this resource. Like that is a discrete role that people in authority, often because of the lens they look through, because of what they get connected to, they have the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
And are they doing it consciously? Are they doing it well? Is a key question. I want to connect to a couple things here in the book real quick. One of them is that we make it clear that authority isn't enough in this book. Like the 30,000 have to do their part, but their part is insufficient. So the chapter talks about that a lot. We also say that no one person or one organization has enough authority to solve the health gap in Kansas, right? So it's one of those wicked challenges, one of those adaptive challenges where even somebody like a governor who has so much authority in Kansas, her authority isn't sufficient. It's not enough, right? Mm-hmm. So we need lots of people kind of doing their part, those who have authority and those who don't. More on those who don't have authority later in our podcast series. But one thing I just want to read real quick and then get back to our conversation. So
Ed, tell me what chapter or what page you're on, because I actually have the book with me.
Wonderful. I'm on page 110 right now in the chapter.
Thanks.
And there's a paragraph where we say, every county health officer, whether a Republican or a Democrat, a conservative or a progressive, knows initiatives that, if implemented, would improve capital H health in their counties. But none have enough authority alone to enact those initiatives. And that's one of the things that I want people in authority to think about is your authority gives you some ability, but not enough just to wave a magic wand and improve these types of things, right?
Right. It's kind of like, I know we're in Kansas, Wizard of Oz. We can't click our heels and make this go away, because if it was that easy of clicking our heels, we can just all simultaneously start clicking, and in the whole state, we're at number one and everybody's
I wish it were that easy.
It's not going to be that easy. It's going to take us all being able to work together differently, acknowledge our role. First of all, acknowledging your role in the problem too. Because sometimes I think as a nonprofit organization, we have these missions that are so deeply embedded in who we are. And if we're going down this path, so I'd say if I was an organization serving the unhoused, right? Our goal is to serve X amount of individuals experiencing homelessness each year because my grant dollars are tied to it. This is our history is that. And so what happens when I no longer have individuals who are experiencing homelessness to count so that I can exist as an organization? Well, what's going to happen is our state's going to be better. Our community is going to be better. There are going to be less. But then what about that leader who exercised so much leadership that she worked her organization out of existence? So sometimes, exercising leadership and then being in an authority role, sometimes it's a conflicting thing.
Yes. Okay, let's play with that, because what happens a lot is when you have authority, if people don't like to talk about this, right?
Yes.
But when you have authority, that means somebody gave you that authority.
Right.
That means they have expectations on you.
Yes.
And usually their expectations are that everything runs smoothly, that there are no big problems. There's no big disruption.
Right.
Just everything is
No
kind of
chaos.
chill. No chaos.
Because that's
right?
always how it happens, right? No chaos.
But what we talked about earlier in the series related to part 2 of this book is that leadership is disruptive. Leadership is risky.
Yes.
These challenges progress requires loss.
Yes.
Right? So like people in authority are not often rewarded for stirring up a bunch of change that leads to loss. But yet we need loss so we can move forward, as we talked about a few episodes ago.
Not only are you not rewarded, you're penalized.
Yeah.
Like there's a penalty to it.
Right.
So in the penalty, sometimes it could be, people don't trust you anymore. People don't invite you to the meetings anymore because, you're someone who disrupts too much. You're shaking it up so much for the other organizations and their leaders that you're impacting their authority, right? Yeah. So if you're impacting their authority, how do you still continue down this uphill battle of exercising leadership when you know that all these forces are coming against you and you could possibly lose your job?
Yeah.
And then if you lose your job in this community, where do you go?
Right.
Where do you go?
God, that's such a hard question. That's a really hard question, Ed. So you have a person who's asking that question. I'm curious to know what you might say about that.
And by the question, you mean like, where do you go if you lose your job?
Well, no, the question.
Consulting now. AI does that now.
Ed can also help you with that if you do lose your job. But I'm just saying, no, but really, it's about, right? It's almost like a catch-22, right?
It is. Well, I think it's one of the things we're trying to get at in this chapter and in this part of the book is that what we're talking about right now is one of the reasons why we're saying, hey, authority is enough. You can't do this. You can't mobilize change to close the health gap just by yourself,
right?
Just with your authority alone. It's too risky, right? We'll create too many martyrs. If you just kind of can embrace what we need from authority and understand that we're going to need a lot from other people too. We're going to need a lot from the grassroots. Yeah. We're going to need to bring more people in, get them involved who aren't currently involved in this. But what's the role of authority? Provide some direction. Anchor around America's health rankings. Talk about capital H health. That's not very risky, but we need more people doing that. That's an example of what we need from people in authority is to point towards something that we can all agree on. And if that doesn't happen, it's really hard to make progress.
Yeah. And I feel like it takes leadership to get people to care with you. Right? About the same things, right? That's where not only do you have the authority, and it could be in the position of a resource broker, right? To give out some grants or something like that to help people get on board with your vision and mobilize others to be able to make progress on the thing. But I think that I think that it's really, really important to understand that you have the authority, but then that also allows you to exercise that leadership to get people on board and to what's the word I'm looking for? So the risk isn't just on you.
Create a safe space.
Yeah, create a safe space.
A safe space to lead. For everyone involved so from authority, clearing the path, clearing the way, providing the resources, and creating a safe space that people are able to exercise leadership.
Okay, so I like what we're doing right now. So what we're doing right now, okay, we're going to create a little bit of a, like, what does it look like? What does it not look like? Okay, so what does it look like to use your authority well to help close the health gap? Okay, so you just gave us one answer, like create a safe space. So just say a little bit more about what does that look like? What is somebody who has authority, whether they're like you, a CEO of an important community institution, or they're a city council member, or they're a pastor or a rabbi, like what do they do with their authority to create a safe space, do you think?
Well, I think having a safe space where people can make mistakes. Because if you're going to take risk, you're going to make mistakes. So creating the space where it's okay to make mistakes and that you're not going to be whack-a-mole if you make a mistake.
I love that.
So when I think about there at HealthCore Clinic, we wanted to expand our facility, right? And so I will never forget, we were going down the road. We were trying to get the funds to do it. We ended up with a huge swimming pool behind the clinic for a year and a half because the finances ran through, the construction issues happened.
Wait, you mean not literally a swimming pool?
No, there was
like a hole in the ground.
It was a hole in the ground with steel plates that was holding it up. And the process was delayed for at least a year before we could start construction again. So now we didn't have a parking lot. It was horrible. I felt really bad because I felt like I made decisions in my position of authority that was taking us down a wrong path. But the goal was to really expand the physical facility so we can expand access to alternative services in our community as well. So dental, behavioral health, and all these things. And I'll never forget one of our board members, my board's incredible, but they created that safe space for me to be able to exercise leadership without feeling which gave me the motivation to keep pushing forward and moving and come up with the solution that instead of building another 5,000 square feet to our facility, we ended up with 40,000 square feet. It's
a beautiful 40,000 square foot campus. I mean, it is an amazing building, and what you've created there, Teresa, is phenomenal. But it's a great example, too, that you felt risk. You're the senior authority.
Yes.
Right? And you felt risk.
It's risky.
Okay? And so in the episode right before this one, we talked about it's risky. Like leadership is risky. And so one of the things we're getting at here in this conversation is that those in authority, and your board did this for you, it sounds like, those in authority can help make things less risky for others.
Yes.
And they can do that in lots of different ways, but one of the ways they can do that is to just make it clear to people that if we don't take risks, we're going to get the same darn outcomes we've been getting. And then they can model risk-taking like you did and protect people when they try something and it doesn't work, to protect them, right? All right. I want to ask, go ahead, Susan.
I was
want to ask another question.
And that really encourages experimentation around solutions, potential solutions. If you have the safe space to be able to conduct some experiments, because, you get to a better outcome potentially.
Right. And I love how we're playing with this idea of risk right now. And we talked about last episode, but it's great for it to come back now, is what we're trying to help people understand with this chapter is your job, those of you in authority, your job isn't to solve the health gap. No. Your job is to create the conditions to make it more likely that everybody who has to help do the work to close the health gap can close the health gap. Yep. There's a big distinction there, right? It's like your job isn't to be the one to imagine what risks need to be taken and then take all those risks by yourself. You might need to take some risks, but your job is to create the conditions where people can take more risk, knowing that we're going to have to take risks from a lot of us to make more progress.
Yes. And if you're leading an organization, creating that environment within your organization where your team leaders, all the way to the front desk, that they're empowered to take the risks, that it's going to take all of us pushing in the same direction to be able to move the needle. Little by little, every parts. And then to me, we can grow that 30,000 to 60,000 to 90,000, because in theory, if you're in a role of authority, you could clear the path, do these things. But we have all those others that are on that journey with us, that we can engage the Alices, we can engage everyone to become a part of that group that now shifts their mindset and think differently on how we're going to close the gap.
In a minute, I want to ask, so we talked a little bit about like, what does it look like to use your authority well? And the example, the case we played with was creating a safe space to take risks. Okay. In just a minute, I want to ask, what does it look like when you really screw this up? So be thinking about that. Let's not name anybody, but let's think about times we've seen this go really bad, where somebody uses their authority in a way not helpful for progress on health or on other key important things. So be thinking about that idea. So before we get to what does it look like to screw this up, I just want to lift up something that I was taught from one of my mentors. And I don't think I said this in the book, but Marty Linsky, who, dear friend, dear mentor, great author, he taught me that authority is about providing three things: protection, direction, and order. So protection, like let people take some risks and protect them when they don't go well, right? Direction, here's the North Star. Right? This matters. We have to focus on this, right? In order, here's how we're going to work together. But notice that in those three things, protection, direction, and order, not one of them is about having the solution.
Right.
It's about creating conditions for people to emerge solutions. Okay, let's now try to play with an example or two of like, what does it look like to get this wrong? And we only have a few minutes left in this episode, so we won't belabor it. We're positive thinkers. We're glass half full thinkers. But let's try to name, what does it look like when you don't use your authority well, when you don't understand the difference between authority and leadership? What does it look like? Teresa, what are you thinking?
Oh, man, I'm trying to keep the innocent in this situation. But when I think about, I hate to go back to a COVID incident, but there was an opportunity in our community to vaccinate our seniors, right? The vaccine came out, the shot came out. It's like, get the shot.
Yeah.
But there was a part of the population that was missing when you talk about our seniors coming down to the Intrust Bank Arena. And, well, there is the Homebound. They're the individuals living in group nursing homes. And so I was trying to ask permission and to figures of authority to go and vaccinate those who were homebound because they met the age requirement and all these different things. And it was a very interesting response where it was like, this is the way it's going to go. And I'm like, but there's no way you can get homebound seniors living in group homes out of those environments to get them there to get the shot in that environment. And so there was a fear of defying authority, right? But at the same time, trying to exercise leadership in a way where you're going to do the right thing. So having that moral, like, am I going to lose my job if I do this, or am I going to have a negative impact on HealthCore Clinic if I make the decision to move forward and do that? Because there were I think there were 300 individuals that were living in group homes that needed to be vaccinated. So,
and Teresa, what I imagine, like what an effective authority would have done in that situation, right? So there were civic authorities in that situation dictating a whole lot of things, right? And what could have been really effective would have been for somebody in that key role of authority to be able to say things like, okay, well, here are some reasons why we maybe can't just go directly to those people. But let's bring the right people together into a conversation where we center this challenge as the problem and we don't leave the room, back then probably the Zoom room, until we have an adequate answer. So like that's an example of like somebody in authority using their authority not to solve it, but to create the conditions and to help shine a light on something that needs to be solved.
Yes, and the flexibility to the plan, because I think it was just nobody really thought about that group. And so now this is a new situation. So we cannot, it was like putting a square in a circle spot.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground.
So I really absolutely enjoy this conversation, learning more about the differences, right, between being a position of authority and exercising leadership. My call to action for people in positions of authority who are really awesome, to really figure out and think about how and what they might do to start exercising leadership. Teresa, I'm going to hand it over to you.
And for me, I would say understanding when there is authority, right, that you need to exercise, like, because you're in that role, so you're kind of that authoritarian in whatever you do in that role, right? But then also understand that there's going to be a little give and take, and then to listen and try your best to not be the thing or the person that prevents progress.
The thing that's on my mind, my call to action for our listeners is, it goes back to that conversation about creating safe spaces. Progress at closing the health gap, or progress at anything that somebody's organization cares deeply about, is going to require risk and a culture that can accept risk. So my call to action is for members of the 30,000 to think about how they are creating a culture that is accepting of risk in their day-to-day. What a great conversation.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Teresa, we'll have you back again soon for another conversation. We are about halfway through the book, and we're going to start diving into the mindsets needed. So Teresa, thank you. Susan, this is always a blast. And until next time, join us again for Leading Health, coming up soon. Thanks for listening today. Before we leave, there are a couple ways you can help. The first, visit kansashealth.org/leadinghealth to claim your copy of the book and join in the efforts as we work together to make Kansas the healthiest state in the nation. The second is to share this podcast with your network. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment from whatever platform you use to get your podcast.